I am CouchCube and you have made it to the second part of my top Cyberpunk games that aren't Cyberpunk 2077. You might be watching this in 2077. Stick in the comments if the PlayStation 5 version of Cyberpunk is out by then. This is of course Ghostrunner, the new PlayStation 5 free patch. Absolutely awesome. Was prompted to it on the operating system and got it uploaded about 10 gigabytes, slightly larger than the base game, but it looks stunning, of course, as I always say. And we've got some great reflections. I'm not completely bowled over. I don't think we've got true 4K, and that's starting to annoy me a little bit. What we do definitely 100% have is an excellent pegged 60 frames per second, which is great to see this game operating in, but not a mold breaker because everyone on the PC is running this at a lot better specs, to be fair. But it was a free update, and ho hum, it's a bloody awesome game. It came very high on the original list. Sorry for the repeat, but want to show some of these beautiful graphics off.
You can use acceleration while in the air.
It also totally dawned on me as I was playing this that it is a complete clone of another amazing Cyberpunk game in a more even utopian crazy universe than this one, and of course it's next on the list, and I owe you all an apology for missing it. And of course we've had a remake of it that came out in 2016. I am of course referring to Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Now this footage is not the original, this is the Catalyst remake that's available on Game Pass, EA, all that jazz. It's a 2016 version of the incredible original. It is now super famous and kind of a big speed running mecca for a lot of people. That's very interesting, and it's a keyboard and mouse because you can get this glitch on the run. It's a whole crazy world. What is really good to see is the game looking great, and 2016, you know, what are we, 6 years later? Some of these graphics are kind of met with equivalent new releases, so I was very impressed with it. And of course, I'm a complete Mirror's Edge noob, not really played much of this game in its original release, and of course enjoying it on Game Pass currently. Now we need to talk about Cyberpunk and its Cyberpunk aesthetic, and where this kind of excels is the nanotech or sort of neurotech, where the brain has AI and computers and all manner of AR visuals involved. That's a huge area of Cyberpunk technology that is encompassed within the human brain or body. Enhancements, etc. That brings me on to DSX, which isn't on this list or on the previous, and I do owe you guys a massive apology. And that brings me on to a separate point. I'm going to put the links in the description, but I've been watching quite a lot of very good YouTube documentaries about the birth of Cyberpunk and what its roots are all about, and it's very interesting to look at the genre and realize that sci-fi, or leaving planet Earth, or not being set in a huge metropolis city, will take away from the cyber vibe, and I've chosen games that kind of really excel on that front. Also, the neuro internal programming crazy Johnny Mnemonic side is another aspect I've focused on.
Yeah, sure.
The flashier the city, the brighter the neon, and the crazier the plotline, the more I'm interested. Pretty sure there's some glitch outs on that cityscape, but it does look very good, and this game is very good. I like the idea of the hierarchy, the class system. A lot of Cyberpunk lore is based around low life high tech, and this has got a very distinct divide between the rulers and these runners who are making the deliveries. It's an awesome canon and very well executed.
Say that geezer can wait, but it's your choice. Check your map for where to find me.
Okay, Neon Chrome not only has a very cool 80s vibe, which partners extremely well with the Cyberpunk angle, and of course it's a top-down twin stick, so slap on wrist. This is the first time it's kind of featured on the channel properly, and it is couch co-op, local co-op, so you're going to see a bit more of it. I've had it on my system for years. I think it came out free on PSN, and I just, you know, put it to the library and never actually focused on it. I remember seeing a really amazing box set for this on Switch, black box, beautiful art, but it's got some crazy robotics in it. I think this is where this game kind of excels. And of course firepower, not enough neon for my liking, but the soundtrack is banging, noises, stuff going off everywhere. The plot is pretty dystopian, with you playing as a remote-controlled, like, humanoid clone. You come out of these, like, life support pods at the start of each run, and that's a key word. This is a roguelike. Didn't even know that either, and it's got, like, hundreds and thousands of levels. A bit like Gauntlet, and they're crazy difficult. I can barely make the first echelon. I haven't even come up to a boss yet, and I'm going to be putting it through its paces on a local co-op level, actually later on today. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that performs. It's doing very well on the weapon design and getting overrun by different types of enemies, and I do love the human enemy characters. They're blatantly foot soldier types. There is something massively strange going on above ground within this world, and it's great seeing little flying cars going past on the left there. I just noticed them on the replay. Mind Scanners is kind of a recent find. It's recently appeared on Game Pass, and it's funny, and it's indie, and it's pretty damn cool with its ideas. You're playing as an agent in a futuristic city, and what you're doing is you're visiting patients, and you're taking them through these various tests. Well, basically they'll flag up that they're going crazy, and you have to go and see them and put these equipments on them and try and cure their craziness. But the craziness materializes in, like, bits of weird looking puzzles, and once you've got the correct equipment to deal with said puzzle, that then eliminates that bit of crazy. It's a weird game, and I really love its character design. Top right, a lot of the equipment that goes on them. When it comes to asking them questions, you actually have to go through quite a lot of in-depth questions. You have to read the text. It's not all about mini arcade games like you'd see in Undertale. You've got to kind of research and develop different pieces of equipment to deal with different problems, and one of them is like an audio earpiece, and one of them just relaxes. But if you get like answers wrong, then they start to get really stressed and more mad, and then you have to get rid of that chunk of stress with another piece of equipment. It's one of the craziest games I've played in a long time, and I very much enjoy it. And of course it's all about that classic scene from our favourite film of all time, Blade Runner, the original.
I'm kind of nervous when I take tests.
Just please don't move.
That sort of neuromancer, the mind, AI, technology, being able to manipulate thoughts or being able to see into other people's brains quite literally, is a really popular area for the media to concentrate on. Some of the original books and comics and texts and even video games around the cyberpunk subject were very much neuro-focused, i.e. the brain and the within. And you've only got to look at big name films like Lawnmower Man and of course Johnny Mnemonic to realise that it is a massive area, and this game just capitalises on it brilliantly, but in a different angle to Blade Runner.
Cybo Man, he came to see me.
Cybo Man, comics, right?
Yeah, Cybo Man.
You're not looking to see if they're AI, well not yet, you're not trying to work out if they're robots, but what they do all have is like a secret hate for this government that's got everybody getting tested in the city. And so at the end of an assessment you can evaluate the patient, and they've got some of the massive like terrorism vibes, and they blatantly want to just bomb this government, and the government's got your daughter. That's the plot line right at the beginning. So it's kind of a bit of Papers, Please as well in here, validating people and creating people on your side. It's a deeper game than it appears visually. Next up we have a game called Recompile, which in its very namesake indicates some sort of IT tech vibe. It's to do with being inside, I think, a computer and working out the circuitry, getting everything working, and you're like a little alive spark thing. It's a bit crazy, this one, and it's got some Metroidvania vibes as advertised. I can't really confirm that. If there's a puzzle and you haven't got something that you will then get later on in the game to solve said puzzle, doesn't really make it Metroidvania, but it is very much a third-person platformer as well as a bit of a shooter, which I was very keen on. It does kind of remind me of that 90s interpretation of a motherboard. There's some hacker vibes in here.
They just hacked the wrong guy.
Game's over.
Whoever wrote this needs somebody to take the fall.
And you can see that everything exists on an almost 8-bit level with its text and messages. So that's really welcome. I like that injection of retro against quite a slick looking, feels like a AA indie game. Very much a puzzler at this stage, and introducing small nuggets of story that are talking about quite a lot that's going on outside of what looks to be circuitry and some sort of mainframe level. There's also a lot of pipes that take you to other areas, and there's permadeath on, well, there's full damage on anything that isn't a structure. There's quite a lot of talk of interstellar travel and AI cores, memory archives. It does this thing that Nier does where it gives you these blocks of tech that vastly improve either how you move or a new firing weapon. So there's a lot to love here with its progression and how it's opening up to me. I've been looking at a lot of indie titles to see whether they fit nicely into the Cyberpunk canon, and this one really does perfectly. I've had a few games come very close, stuff like Nero Voider, which kind of just isn't enough of the lore and nods to a lot of some of the film and media. This one is so cool. Even the colour of the dude reminds me totally of a lot of the VR interpretations of what a human would look like if they were kind of trapped inside a motherboard or mainframe. The world itself also plays quite a dramatic part in how this game unfolds, and having those long pipes and connecting all these terminals and have things change quite dramatically midway through a level really does alter things. So Recompile is definitely worth a look. Okay, my final entry is of course the Ascent, and you must be like, you're kidding, Coop, we've seen this game hundreds of times on your channel, and I'm apologising to everybody who's into this on a couch co-op level because you would have seen me talk about it extensively, but I never got to put it on the original Cyberpunk list because it came out just after, and this is just everything we're looking for when it comes to that aesthetic. The gameplay is not too shabby either, with great twin-stick mechanics, current-gen graphics, ray tracing, beautiful particle dissipation, there's reflections everywhere. This neon city is incredible, so it's very high on my play a lot list, and of course it ticks loads of those boxes that I've been looking for in a modern cyberpunk game. It does have one of the nicer looking cities on this list. They've taken great care to make sure that all of the NPCs look like they're up to something. There's cool shops and vendors. There's like refuse and rubbish all over the streets. And there's a great level of random encounters with like cyber psychos with swords coming out of nowhere, or these big bulky dudes that will just rush you if you've walked into their sort of gang territory. I especially like its integration with almost its set-like levels with all the dissipation you'll get in fights in like cool market areas where there's street vendors and fast food places blowing up, and you'll duck behind a counter and cartons and noodles will be exploding around you. That's some really cool cyberpunk stuff. Its story is kind of the tropey, classic underclass going against sort of big corporates, trying to take them down on a sort of hacking slash gunfire level. It's a very cool canon, and it is implemented well with some great character-based boss fights and machines. It's big on massive insectoid AI robots, this game, and so should it be, with it being placed in such an awesome city with all of these like working mechanics around it, people building stuff in the background. It's such a great gritty cyberpunk universe, this, that I'm totally addicted and go back to it all the time. One of the things is that the sound is glitched on a lot of these clips, and of course it had so many patches go through with it, and I've never tried it on the 4-player couch co-op level, which is a promise I've made for February on the channel. As always, I'll see you there.